Preaching on the yeah.
Let's go! We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, we are back. We are all the way back. Not just myself, okay? Obviously, you caught last week's first episode. It's episode 17, though, if you've been following the duo. All right. Our first week back together as a duo. It's like Big Boy and Andre 3 stacks. You know? It's 50 and Tony Yayo. It's how do I put it? It is Dr. Dre and Eminem. Okay? Is Logan Paul and KSI.
Ooh.
The Goal Line Goons are back, baby.
Is it Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison?
It's Peyton Manning. It's Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., baby.
We're doing it 2024 style.
Yo, ladies and gentlemen, the Fantasy Football Shack and Kobe are back. Taco's camera is lagging a little bit. We will get that fixed, right? Yeah,
Shit, it's absolutely crazy over here on this end. So if it's lagging a little there, I don't want to tell you what it looks like here.
Oh wait, now you caught up. Now all of a sudden, now it fixed.
Oh wait,
yeah, wait,
maybe no, almost.
We almost had it. Jump back in. We had this problem Friday night on our own show. It's okay.
Still is.
I'll stall. Ladies and gentlemen, you are catching the Goal Line Goons Week 3 waiver wire. On this show, we're always going to hit you off with the waiver wire because guess what? We are live on a Tuesday night. All right. And a lot of you have waivers that you got to put in. So we're going to make sure that we get you taken care of with that. Make sure that you like, make sure that you comment, make sure that you subscribe. We are cross-streaming on both the Rumboyz Fantasy Network and Big Guy Fantasy Sports. Big shout out to Bob Long. Let's go.
What up?
Before, yeah, now you're back. So now I know that I just gotta like bring you in like live, like and then we're fine. Before we get started, cheers to the new dad, but also, okay, because we celebrated that Friday night taco.
We did.
The baby's here. It's we've accepted it. It is what it is. Yeah, but you can also never get enough cheers.
Yep.
We have to do this cheers for all the fantasy managers with injuries. All the fantasy managers with injuries. Everyone's rosters is looking like a freaking ER room. So, paging Dr. Robbie, paging Dr. Taco. We got some fantasy football rosters to fix. Cheers to me. Cheers to you. All the Rumboyz and girls. What it do. Dilly dilly. We appreciate you. All the Big Guy Fantasy Sports girls, boys and girls, what to do. We appreciate you. Dilly dilly. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it, my good friend. I do want to shout out the chat. Falcons won and Diddy was arrested last night. It's a movie. It's definitely life is absolutely a fucking movie. Like nobody had that on their bingo card. Damn, Daniel, what's good? He said, yo, what's good? Kickers are currently 35 for 37 on 50-plus yard field goals this season. We are seeing more kickers drop 20 bombs. These guys are more useful than tight ends. Now, we may or may not talk about that later. Shoshi is always subject to be edited. Aiden says, yo, what is good? And my 14 team, I'm dropping Jeff Wilson and Luke McCaffrey. We're still in CH, then moving CH to IR and getting Hunt. Thoughts? I think that you just should The shortest distance between 2 points is a fucking straight line. Why is CH even involved in this? Why is he even involved in this move? Like, just go and get Hunt directly. Just go and get Hunt directly. Last night, as soon as in leagues that it allowed me, as soon as my lineups unlocked, and or even before, like where I could add him, I was dropping Xavier Legette like a fucking like a pin in a quiet library. You could just Xavier Legette gone off the roster real quick, bringing over Kareem Hunt. The shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. You don't gotta pick up Steele and CEH, and you can just drop both, grab Steele, and then and grab Hunt. You know what I'm saying? If I don't get either, I have a claim for Akers. Solid for a 14-team league. I mean, it's a 14-team league. You kind of have to, take what you can get. You trust Johnny Sins as a doctor more than Taco. Holy crap. CH is not a sneaky watch anywhere. Would you guys trade Devontae Smith and Ramadre for Olave, JSN, Brian Robinson in full PPR? Brian Robinson back-to-back week, top 10 rushers. So let's just throw that out there right away. Brian Robinson, if you can acquire, you should acquire because he's not necessarily on a sexy team in a sexy situation. It's not a sexy name. So people may be willing just off of the strength of it, be more willing than not to let that go. JSN is evolving. We knew that eventually this team was going to have to figure out life after Lockett. So JSN becomes definitely more valuable in the 2024 season than what we were expecting that to happen more so in fruition than in 2023. And then Olave, I'm letting you guys know he's going to get his. If the Saints keep clicking like this underneath Kubiak, they are going to keep getting theirs, all right? Underneath that Kubiak offense, I just want to make sure I take a look. In 2023, 14.4%, 32nd was the play action rate. Play action is now up to 52.3% in 2024 under Clint Kubiak. That is first in the National Football League across 2 weeks, all right? So Olave is definitely going to get his. Rashid Shaheed's going to definitely get his. That offense is going to be moving like clockwork. I'm loving it for the first-time play caller. Or trading Ramadre for JSN and Dobbins. Which trading? I like the first one. I like the first one a lot more. You're getting more bang for your buck.
If you're giving up Smith, I like it more because remember, Brown being out is giving Smith this opportunity for extra targets, which is going to make him seem a lot sexier, particularly if you're trading him away. I think, if you have Smith and you're getting Robinson, JSN, and Olave, I am with that side.
Yep, very, 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 very true. Very, very true. I like this trade here a lot more HD than just the Ramadre, and JSN and Dobbins, just because when we look at, I'm not putting this on Dobbins. I just don't want you to deal with injuries or anything like that. Like, I'm not forecasting that. I want Dobbins to have a very healthy career. I just feel like there's less risk involved in this trade.
100%. And let's face it, Ramondre Stevenson looks like he's going to be a workhorse over there. Like all the fear that we had about Gibson seems to be subsiding and really just feeling more comfortable with him in a bell cow role, which is extremely hard to find these days.
And Brian Robinson, I mean, touchdowns or not, he's still going to probably more than likely get you 100 yards this season. Yep. Like back-to-back weeks, he's exploded. So you're still staying competitive in the running back, position category. Yes, Dobbins has been good. Fun fact, CH has more 20-point games than Pacheco. That is fine. That is okay. I am not rostering CEH. Taco. We did
I agree
for waivers or about injuries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We do need to talk about the injuries that took place. All right. Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Mixon, Cooper Kupp, Evan Ingram, AJ Brown, Isaiah Pacheco. Some of the big ones. Obviously, a couple more had happened throughout the week. These are the main injuries that I feel like everyone out there has to navigate this week. All right. Tua's head met DeMar Hamlin's chest on a Thursday night. One of those things had to go, and I guess it was to his head. So that now brings us to, figuring out and navigating around that. Joe Mixon said to not be serious. We'll see how that plays out. Cooper Kupp going to IR. Evan Ingram sound like IR. AJ Brown still awaiting developments, more so to hear about how that's going to go. Isaiah Pacheco. Obviously, you're still waiting on Jordan Love to return. CMC got put on IR. Those things I feel like go without saying. You ready to get in the waivers? Well, first off, before we get in the waivers, were you affected by any of these injuries?
Personally, I mean, Isaiah Pacheco was like my guy. I was touting him from the beginning of the offseason. I had him in the fishbowl. I've been drafting him all the way through. Is like my almost like the guy like Judy last year, where it was like roster diversification. Don't take too much of the same guy. Well, guess what? 2 years in a row, that burns me because I mean I just couldn't get enough of that situation for Pacheco, especially where he's falling. Debo caught me across the
Debo
mouth.
added to this list, obviously. Yeah, Debo.
That came out of nowhere. Didn't expect that. It looked like it was like he out of the game. You really didn't hear much. Then all of a sudden, bam! Debo's showing up with something. I'm like, oh my god. So that's another weird one. And then Evan Ingram, he hurt his hamstring in warm-ups, which is frustrating because it's like, really? Warm-ups, bro? Like, how hard are you going, bro? You gotta relax a little bit. Cup, I have Cup on my main money league roster, but on that roster, I also have Higgins. And I didn't expect the Higgins injury to come from before week 1 and still going. So, I mean, I feel like this year injuries have been more pronounced than ever. I think that's also partly because, these guys aren't doing like the preseason the way they used to. So now it's like going almost like from cold to like full game action. And these guys just, they're not ready, at least before you're playing halves and a quarters and stuff like that as you get into the full game. Now these guys are playing like maybe 1/2, if that, and then they're going into full live game action, and the defenses are ready. It's the offenses that don't seem ready.
No, I definitely agree. I was affected by every single one of these injuries. Absolutely. Of course, me being in the multiple leagues that I am in, then I'm going to experience this more likely than others. Speaking of being exposed to injuries, that also exposes you to waiver wire pickups. Check the private chat.
Mm-hmm.
First off, I do want to start off with the quarterbacks. Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold is still available in 20% of leagues. He had that big 97-yard bomb, and I understand what a lot of people are saying. Well, if it wasn't for that, hold on. Well, it still happened, and it's still been a thing, and he's still been productive back-to-back weeks. Sam Darnold available in 20% of leagues, okay? Justin Fields available in 33% of leagues from the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's sounding like that Mike Tomlin is 100% going to ride with the hot hand in Justin Fields. So I expect him to fully suit up, fully be ready in week 3 until further notice. In the words of Tomlin, narratives are just narratives. Derek Carr available in 23% of leagues. Derek Carr has already shown himself to be reliable through 2 weeks. I'm not saying go out there and drop it of your stars that you have, but if you are in a situation where you can afford the roster space and you can acquire Derek Carr, I have absolutely no problems with you acquiring Derek Carr. I prefer you acquire any of these 3 before the last guy that I'm going to mention, and that is Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew available in 11% of leagues. The Raiders the Raiders put something together towards the end of that game that allowed Garner Minshew to be involved in this conversation. I don't want you running out there spinning fab on Minshew. I don't want you going out there and reaching for Minshew. If you're grabbing Minshew over any of the other three available that I just mentioned, there we go. Oh, wait, nope. And then you stopped. If you're going to grab Minshew ahead of any of the other three that are mentioned, it needs to be a do or die situation. It needs to be a like, oh my gosh, I really need someone situation. An honorable mention, though, is Snoop Huntley. Tyler Huntley, definitely going to be available in your leagues. Feel free to go out there and grab Tyler Huntley. This man was a Pro Bowler whenever Lamar Jackson was absent. So definitely something noteworthy to put in there. Taco, how do you feel about those QBs?
I think that what we're seeing from Derek Carr is very tantalizing, because what you had mentioned is a brand new offensive system being in place that's a lot more seemingly fantasy friendly. And then you add in Derek Carr looking like he's playing more like how he did a couple of years ago with the Raiders when he had, that good season, because he's had some bad seasons, but he's also had a couple of good seasons with the Raiders where he's been near QB1 production or QB1 back end in fantasy before. So it's not the first time that he's shown this kind of potential. Now, with this offensive coordinator and with this season, can he be, last year's Baker Mayfield, where he's turned into, from a goose to a swan? You know what I mean? Or a duckling to a swan. I mean, that's yet to be told. But I'm very are most interested in Derek Carr. Justin Fields, it seems like to me, they're being very conservative with him, which is really going to hurt his fantasy value because he's really not throwing the ball that much. He's running it some, but they're playing we're going to get this win kind of game.
We're also in September football. Let's take that into account.
And we don't know like if they're really going to start building the offense for Fields, or if this is just like, hey, this is the Wilson offense, and we're just having Fields run it until he gets back. So that's a big question, on if they're going to make more substantial changes to play more towards Field style. Although it seems like Fields is not playing bad from an NFL perspective. I think this is where some of us need to kind of like put the difference between NFL quarterback and fantasy quarterback is two different things. And Mike Tomlin wants an NFL quarterback that's going to protect the ball, that's not going to take unnecessary chances and risks to turn the ball over, especially since he knows he has a good defense, which definitely I think will probably limit his ceiling to probably more like a QB2 than the QB1 we're used to. And I kind of find myself looking more at Derek Carr having more upside this year because of the way he's throwing.
Carr, I would say go and get first off.
Yeah,
it would be Darnold. Then it would be
yeah, exactly. I agree, because Darnold looks like him and Jefferson are rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, as long as Jefferson comes back from that oblique contusion, he should be fine, though, according to reports. I want to talk about the running backs. The running backs, actually a very interesting situation. Kareem Hunt right now, 14% rostered. That is an incredible jump because just last night during the game, when news came out that the Chiefs were meeting with him, it was somewhere around about like 1.4%. And then I think it creeped up to 4%. And then I think from 4%, it jumped to 14 out of fucking nowhere. So Kareem Hunt, Carson Steele at 4%, Alexander Madison at 52% availability. Okay. It's starting to seem like that maybe Zamir White is fool's gold and that they're probably going to lean on Alexander Madison a little bit more. If you're waiting to figure out how you're going to trade Zamir White or include him in a package, you need to be maybe trying to figure out a way to fill that in if someone on your bench isn't able to do the job. Justice Hill at 39% availability. Antonio Gibson at 25%. Back-to-back weeks, he has shown that he can be a guy and he can be a thing. Braylon Allen popped out and showed, okay, at 22% availability. We saw how effective he was. He had a 20-point-plus fantasy game this past week. What are your thoughts on the running backs? I'm personally trying to grab as much Hunt and even Braylon Allen as possible. Madison is like a third for me, followed by Hill, because Hill's out-snapping Derrick Henry. And then along with Gibson, Carson still is at the bottom for me. I don't think that he fumbled. And I think that also led into them bringing back Kareem Hunt, a kicker.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, the way I look at this is Braylon Allen becomes a very interesting wild card because he's shown that he has dynamic upside. However, the consistency that he's probably going to have is going to be very nominal. Although we've seen many offensive support to RBs, we've seen many backup RBs like this force themselves into a role, even if they have an elite ETN.
We're going to get to you in a second. Keep going.
Mm-hmm. And I think that when you look at the Jets offense as a whole, outside of Garrett Wilson, you're looking for playmakers. Like, you know, as nice as Lazard and Williams are, they're still like more deep shot type guys than guys underneath that are able to catch that ball, make a play, make a run. And I think especially with Hall coming off of injuries, you're probably going to want to rotate him in. So I think for now he's a stash that can play himself into a flex. Because of his dynamic play style. And if the Jets end up changing or evolving their game plan to be more like what we saw from the Falcons a year ago or 2 years ago, with Terry Algier getting a significant workload with Bijan Robinson, you know, you're going to see, I think, Braylon Allen probably having the most upside out of all of these guys.
What I want to hint on really quick, make sure you guys hit the like, comment, subscribe. We're going to get to those fantasy questions. I do see them down there. You know, Christian, I got you. Don't worry, homie. George, I got you. Don't worry, homie. Really quick, one of the things that I want to touch on with Braylon Allen, those that have followed the channel for a long time, that have followed the Rumboys channel specifically for a long time, or any of my sports accounts, whether it's Instagram or Twitter or whatever the case, Braylon Allen, I have been a fan of when this dude was putting up 220 like it was nothing at 17 years old. Like it was nothing, multiple reps. Okay. Braylon Allen adds a different dynamic to this Jets team and to this Jets offense that honestly, when you have a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, you need that dynamic of a running back that can also give Breece Hall a couple of breaths in between, because Breece Hall is dynamic as fuck. But then if you could tell me that both these guys could potentially go out there and have 20-yard days because the Jets can now just run and hammer the rock, yeah, I kind of want some shares of that sooner rather than later. I'm not saying drop a viable, you know, guy. Like, if you don't have the room for Braylon Allen, you don't have the room for Braylon Allen. If you don't have the room for Kareem Hunt, if you don't have the room for any of these guys, you don't have the room for any of these guys.
Yep.
But I think that Braylon Allen definitely sticks out when that passing game has Lazard, who tends to drop a pass here and there and, you know, doesn't have exactly the most reliable hands. You know, when you talk about Garrett Wilson, who they are going to lean on him the most in the passing game, you know, Breece Hall, they're obviously utilizing in the passing game. We saw that in the Patriots game when he caught that big touchdown. If I'm needing a back that can go out there and be on the field and do things to just get opportunity share, I think that Braylon Allen sticks out like a sore thumb. We already know what Kareem Hunt can do, and that's why you're grabbing Kareem Hunt. That's why he's at the top of this list. Carson still had a fumble last week. I think that that's why that there are questions about him, and I think that's why you maybe pause for caution there. Madison, if he's available, you grab him just because Zamir White's fool's gold. Justice Hill, your only justification is that he's out snapping Derrick Henry. And Antonio Gibson, he had an 11-point fantasy game last week. I mean, maybe it's worth a sniff around and see what can happen. Let's answer some fantasy questions. What do you say, eh?
Yep. And the one last thing I put on with Justice Hill that I don't trust is they still got Keaton Mitchell, who's going to be coming back soon. If he's still available on your IR, that you can stash him. I like those kind of stash guys.
I want to wait and see. I want to wait and see. That's way too deep, especially for us being at this point. And I love the call out, but
for IR though, that's what I say.
Yeah. I just traded away ETN and Shaheed for AK. Is that good? I feel that when we talk season long production, and if the
Alvin Kamara,
yes, Alvin Kamara.
Oh my God!
If the Kubiak offense clicks the way that it is, I think that it's balanced. I think that it's very equitable for both sides. I don't feel like you lost. I don't feel like you gained anything. Because both of those guys, AK is not going to have a 4-touchdown game every week. It's an overreaction to sit here and be like, every week he's going to do that. Even in seasons previous that he's had multiple touchdown games, that's not a repetitive quality of Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara managers know this. You may get a couple of 2-touchdown games. You know, you may get a 3-touchdown game. Alvin Kamara is good enough. Is absolutely a league winner all times. Okay. Both of those guys that you had could also very well put together with depending on the way that your roster is constructed to also put out the same output. You know, so that's where you don't want to lose at the other positions.
I agree with what you're saying, but who do you consider as the best player in this deal? I think you got to say it's AK, right?
AK is the best player in the deal. It depends
on the
on
running back. Can you really name 5?
If he's weak elsewhere,
I agree with you, but you don't usually make a trade like this unless you have depth.
If all he has is AK,
send us your roster on Twitter.
If the rest of the roster becomes depleted,
you're right, Robbie. Let's have you guys send him his whole roster on Twitter, and we could look at it.
Christian, feel free to type your roster in the chat. What I will say is that it's a balanced trade. It is a good trade. It is an equitable trade, and I think that that's the proper way to assess it. Okay, for me to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, yes, you definitely won."
Well, personally, for me, I like it from the fact of how much do I trust Shaheed season long versus a guy like AK at the running back spot. And like I said,
here's the thing: is I'm starting to trust Shaheed
because
Shaheed is starting to become so fucking deadly in an essence to what a Debo, how Debo is deadly, and that fucking scares me for fantasy.
I mean, he could be a big play threat this season. Absolutely.
He's going to be a big threat, a big play threat. We do have
because he's hitting on those big 40-yarders. Yes, I agree.
We do have a don't know. Hi. I have Mahomes, Achan, Mason, Nico Collins, Landon, Brock Bowers, and Worthy. What do you think? Any room for improvement? To say that if there's room for, there's always room for improvement. That's room for improvement. I think that Xavier Worthy is where, if anything, the improvement could be. But like I've said on many takes and many different episodes, not this specific show, but other shows that our YouTube channel puts out, you're gonna have Worthy games. You're going to have Rice games. Is it equitable to miss out on either or? I have people DMing me asking me, do I trade Rice? I have people DMing me, do I trade Worthy? And my wholehearted opinion is slow it down. I don't think that in week 2, improvement I think that in week 2, if if things were to end right now, if you were to go into this week with that roster, I feel like you're gonna whoop ass. You're gonna open up a can of whoop ass. By the way, Christian's roster is AR, Brees, AK, Amon, Terry. Terry's who you need to be trading, which we're going to talk about later. Pitts, Javonte. Javonte is also another piece that you need to be trading. That's what we need to be talking about. So getting rid of, now that we know that those are the other 2 pieces that you'd be getting rid of, ETN and Shaheed, I feel like you actually kind of need the depth because of what the other pieces are there. But there's more that we're going to go into that conversation. AR, when we get into the trade talks, we're going to talk about that as well. Leash, you're replacing Unk with Unk. Oh my gosh. He's a better Unk. I'm dead. Brady asks, I have Rice, Devontae, Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr. I need a running back. What's the trade move?
Smith. Love him, but his target share is probably going to be, especially once AJ Brown comes back. So it's almost like a sell high because right now Smith is going to be performing great, and then he's going to kind of have a dip off once you get Brown back. So you kind of use that leverage to get. I feel like
agree. I know that the rookies and Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. at this point, I feel like are going to be force fed. Smith becomes the guy that I could trade, even though I feel like Philadelphia could support 2,000-yard receivers. I don't want to take a risk on that when you have more secure options in these younger guys. Rice, we know that this guy's a speed demon. Ha, pun intended. All right, no, I'm kidding. No pun unintended. But with that being said and stated, I want a piece of that high-powered offense. So there's that. I do have to make sure that we do take a shot, or I take a shot for that dono earlier. George asked, just trade away Brian Robinson for Jameson Williams. Thoughts? Equitable trade. Fair trade.
I mean, there's huge upside on either side. Question is, I always feel like so far with J-Mo is his health. Does he hold up? That's a little bit.
I worry about running back depth. I feel like this is a year that you're going to need running back depth.
Yeah.
Especially with the guys like Achan, James Cook getting ran into the ground. Let's go ahead. Let's talk about receivers really quick. We haven't even gotten fully through waiver wire, Taco. Rashid Shaheed is 59% available. Al Lazard, 57% available. Quentin Johnson, 19% available. Juwan Jennings, 7% available. Demarcus Robinson, 57% available. Tutu Atwell, 2% available. Really quick, I'm just going to start from the back and then work my way up here. Tutu and Demarcus Robinson. Demarcus Robinson has already been getting more of the target market share, even with Kupp and Puka Nacua when they were on the field throughout weeks 1 and 2. So obviously that tells us that there's a little bit more of a connection there for Stafford. So I prefer you if you are looking directly just by a team-to-team basis. If your thought process is, I lost a Ram in Kupp or Nacua, I need to replace it with a Ram, I would like you to prioritize that order of operations as Demarcus Robinson, and then it's Tutu Atwell. At 2%, everyone in your league's not going to go after Tutu. Okay, so if you're thinking in that manner, and that's the offense that you like because of Sean McVay, et cetera, make Demarcus Robinson the priority. Okay, Juwan Jennings, Debo's out. Ayuk is now having to be the one. You paid Ayuk for a reason. Ayuk is time to pop out and show. With that being said and stated, I do think that Juwan Jennings needs to be rosterable. I talked about him last week. I'm talking about him again for the second week in a row. Message. That's all I'm going to say about that. Quentin Johnson, 19% availability. Quentin Johnson is doing this weird combination of still catching with his hands and his body. Yeah. Taco has it right there. We don't even need to take on that from Taco just because like Taco's body language just there gave us that full presentation. Al Lazard, 57%. The only justification is that he's Aaron Rodgers' target. You are going to deal with fantasy football frustration with Al Lazard because he drops. And if you're ever watching a Jets game, you're going to see those drops. And they're going to be drops that are key drops. Like he makes key drops. So That's my issue with Alan Lazard. He's probably out of anyone, maybe between him and Tutu are probably the lowest on my list. Rashid Shaheed barely making the cut on the waiver wire show at 59%. If he's available, you need to be checking just in case. Is there a chance you're going to be disappointed? Yes. Is there a chance you're not going to be disappointed? Yes. Okay. So Rashid Shaheed, 59%. Are you telling me there's a chance?
Yeah.
So let's make that quick because we have plenty of more fucking fantasy questions.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of interested in QJ this year. The way that Palmer hasn't popped off and him, being a first round pick. Hey, we know he's handsy, but guys evolve. I think I'm willing to take a shot there.
Yeah.
Because he is more long term, I feel like, because he could end up being the number one for Herbert. But again, I'm not spending a lot of fab on that. That's a throwaway.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a throwaway for me as well. I don't mind this bench. I feel like AD Mitchell is droppable, and we're going to talk about droppable players. Just because Alec Pierce is doing this weird thing where he's taking big plays away. But I don't mind this bench at all. The starting lineup is definitely solid. Aside from DJ Moore clearly being pissed, but we're used to moving DJ Moore in fantasy football. Let's face it. Nico Collins absolutely is a dog. 60-man, $300. AR Brees, AK Amon Ra. Oh, this is the lineup that you talked about earlier. I'm thinking of pairing Terry and AR and getting someone like Ayuk and roll with Kirk and Carr. It's not that. I mean that's doable. That's doable.
I was telling Robbie before the season, I feel like AR was someone that was coming down my board because his inconsistencies throwing the ball make him hard to start every week.
We were already saying that about AR. I approve of you moving AR. Do I get Hubbard or still from waiver wires? You have to worry about when Jonathan Brooks comes back.
Yes.
With Hubbard, I don't think that Hubbard
has more longevity. He has more runway.
You have to find a way to move Hubbard. Oh wait, no, you're talking about waivers, Tanner. Is there somebody? Look, I'll put the running backs back up. Get one of these other guys before you think about Carson Steele. Just because Kareem Hunt was brought in for a fucking reason, dude. If one of these other guys are available, I would prefer you make that decision. Let's go ahead. Let's hurry up and let's do the tight ends. Mike Gesicki, 12% roster. John Smith, 8%. Kobe Parkinson, 58%. Hunter Henry, 24%. Out of all these, I am so surprised that Hunter Henry's 24%. Kobe Parkinson, I've seen as an ad drop. Jonnu is probably going to get a lot of looks just because they're bringing in Huntley. And that Baltimore system, he was used to throwing to Mark Andrews and such. And Gesicki's popped out and showed the last 2 weeks. I think that is time that we get Gesicki with Gesicki again.
And I think when you look at the current receiving options on that team, it leads him to having a viable role season long for Joe Burrow. Because even once you get Higgins back, that's about it. There's no other weapons other than that. And I think that leaves him on the field in order to be a pass catcher. Now, how healthy is he going to stay? That's a whole different question. But for now, you get him and you ride it until it hits the IR.
Okay. Yeah, for me, the tight ends are a quick hit. I think that all these guys are actually fairly make a case to be bench tight ends and to be rosterable guys.
I mean, let's face it, the tight end this year is kind of like, oh my God.
It's fucking desolate. It's terrible. Which leads us into our talks of the night. Leafs brought it up earlier, and I kind of want to see if I can scroll back and get that comment. But Leafs brought it up at the beginning of the stream. Kickers outscoring tight ends. Are you in favor of moving forward in your leagues next year? bringing in your leagues that don't have kickers, because we play in leagues that have kickers and we play in leagues that don't have kickers. So obviously, you and I, we both have enough data and knowledge to. I feel like waiting on the situation heavy enough. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this phenomenon that's currently happening?
All right. Well, I mean, first, before I start this statement, there's always two standpoints in the fantasy community, fantasy football, and I am pro kicker. I am pro kicker. Okay.
Hey, kickers' lives matter.
Kickers' lives matter. Okay. I kind of like the idea of finding the guys, especially because you got to get strategic about it. I need teams that can score.
Wait, let's not misconstrue. I'm pro tight end as well.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys matter. And I think that the game evolves consistently. And now what we're seeing is more guys have bigger legs. And now, it's like, okay, we got the ball a little bit down the field. Just fuck it. Let's just kick the field goal. Before you would like a 40-yarder used to be like, oh my God, he's going for 43. It's so big. Yeah, now they're like 55. Let's go.
It's like if basketball were to be like, in order to win the game in overtime, we're getting into a 3-point shootout. Well, all right, fuck it. I'm deploying Steph Curry. I feel like that it's that essence to it. Yep. Obviously, that's not a real sports scenario, but like if that were a thing, that's what this thing is. Yep. Look, from a fantasy football standpoint, you are playing fantasy football with the full know-it-all that you are betting on the game.
Yep.
I've never been an advocate for removing any one position.
Nope.
I've actually even been a proponent of adding a position. If you can add an IDP into your league, add an IDP. You know, if we're going to play fantasy football, because some of us have grown up playing football. Some of us have grown up trading football cards. Like if some of us grew up like the old school, just watching and being a fan.
Some of us grew up playing Madden.
Exactly. Madden. Yeah, Madden. The influence that Madden's had on the game, backyard football, like Nerf. Look, if you love this thing called football, I don't think that you're removing any position from your league.
Nope.
I feel like that is a cop-out to try and make things easier. Look, if we're playing fucking fantasy, let's play fantasy. And that's my whole thing. I'm in a league where it's a $300 buy-in, $3K online, big-ass trophy. And hear me out. We have a kicker. We have an IDP player. You get a full defense. And then you have your standard, your standard roster. One QB. Instead of 2 QB, it's 1. Like, there's still the traditionals, the traditionalities of it. There's still the purest of it. And I think that there's something to say and something to reward to that. So that's my only take with that. I do want to keep this show moving. We have to talk about consistency.
Ooh.
Last week, I brought up, we didn't have like consistency data for week 1. We only had data last week or from last year to rely off of. So we couldn't really bring up consistency in this show. I'm digging through the first 2 weeks of consistency reporting, and 2 names popped out to me at the quarterback position. And that's Derek Carr and Baker Mayfield. Carr 4th in consistency, Baker Mayfield surprisingly 1. All right, they're both top 5 in fantasy football consistency after 2 weeks of play. Could either of these guys realistically be league winners?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, earlier when I was talking about Derek Carr, I was like, he could be this year's Baker Mayfield. It's not funny that we find him here because you only get there by being consistent. And that's what Baker Mayfield has done since he's gone to the Bucks. So I definitely 100% believe in what Baker Mayfield is doing. And if you saw what he did on one of those touchdown plays, is he ran that bad boy in. He looked, he saw what was going on. He's like, nope, I'm going to take off. I'm going to do it. And he got wheels. He's literally what you would call is now kind of like the ideal quarterback. He doesn't run the best, but he can run. He doesn't throw the best, but he can throw. He's accurate, he's decisive, and he's a leader. So I think from that standpoint, he's gonna, I think, keep flourishing as they're letting him like take this role. And I think he's just thriving because they're letting him be Baker. They're letting him be Baker.
What I love about Baker's case is that everything that you mentioned, they're allowing him to be a leader. They're allowing him to show moxie, but then also the addition of the weapons that are surrounding him. They are reliable and they are trustworthy weapons. And as long as there's reliable and trustworthy weapons,
yep. Chris Godwin looks like he's back. God and Win is
in
back.
his name. Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's a nice little setting there. So Baker is someone that if I can get Baker, especially on the cheap, I take him, I hold him, and I love him, I cherish him, and I don't let him go for a little bit. Okay, Derek Carr is another one where we were mentioning the change in the offense as what's something that's so alluring about Carr right now, because we've seen him show flashes of consistency in certain years. It's like kind of like it's the moon and the sun, and oh my god, this is the Derek Carr year. It's like fucking the year of like the goat, or like the year of like, you know what I mean, like Chinese New Year kind of stuff.
My thing with Derek Carr is that if we saw this with Ben Johnson, we saw this with Bobby Slowick. There are offensive coordinators that are just sometimes that are just hidden gems. You know, teams tend to dig them up, coaching staffs tend to dig them up and figure out who they really are. And if Clint Kubiak is really the real deal and can really make this thing work for New Orleans, and this can be consistent, Derek Carr could lead to a championship.
Yeah.
He has done it. Derek Carr has won me a championship before. That MVP season with the Raiders.
Yep.
In fantasy football, it's not about like the most like exotic playing style. You're winning a championship by any and all costs.
Yep.
And if Carr's going to go out there and do it for me, I'm okay with whatever. Yep. The team that you draft is not the team that you're trying to end with. That is just a starting point.
Yep.
Look, already, ladies and gentlemen, through just 2 weeks, the fantasy football season has taken out 2 quarterbacks. The script writer has literally been Oprah Winfrey like, you get an injury, you get an injury, you all get injuries. If I have to replace an injured quarterback, I might go with a reliable quarterback or a guy that has experience at playing quarterback and being healthy and keeping himself healthy. If I'm in that that Jordan Love situation, Derek Carr, step right on up. I'm just saying, in single QB, fuck it. That's all I'm saying. Kubiak, Kurt, and Purdy. He's worked with the same type of QB before. Kelsey's projected 10 points. This blows. Oh, yeah, that does blow.
Yeah.
Both guys escape toxic situations. Both of them did escape toxic situations. I do believe that both of them are going to be league winners at the end of this season. I think that there's highly a chance. Like Lisa mentioned, Kubiak's done this before. Listen, Pimpin', I ain't new to this. I'm sure it is. You dig what I'm saying?
Which is why I like Kamara.
We all love Kamara. Really quick, speaking of, what player on your fantasy football roster? Well, first, actually, hold on. I should have thrown this in there. Who is your fantasy MVP from your roster this week? Has to be a guy that's on your roster that you have.
This is a good one.
This should be easy. You should just be able to
DK Metcalf. He popped off. I was talking about him like, is he going to put up a shut up on Friday? And he delivered in a very big way. Also, Rice put up another one.
Okay. You only get to pick one, so we're going to go with your first one. That's DK. For me, it's too low-hanging fruit for me to be like a Chan or Cook or like any of those. And all of them are deserving. Justin Jefferson, deserving. Because I have all three of those guys on the same roster. Fred Warner as an IDP is on that same roster. I had a lot of guys that popped out and showed. There's nothing like some good old-fashioned classic Garbo time. Kirk Chains. That last-minute touchdown. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you did see it in the group chat. That last-minute touchdown to get me over the hump in my big money league. Okay, $300 buy-in. Who's the real thief league? Shout out. All right. $3K on the line. Big-ass trophy. Kirk Chains, that last touchdown, for him to have a 26-point fantasy point game night when he was down in the dumps and to come back at the final seconds, that is my week 2 fantasy football MVP. Because a Chan had already popped out on a Thursday night. Same with Cook. Jefferson was an iced on the cake. Bass had some great kicks. Fred Warner did his thing. McLaurin, not so much. Freiermuth,
For the record, you named like 5 guys.
Huh?
For the record, you just named like 5 guys.
No, I'm naming one person as my MVP. Kirk Chains. Out of my whole lineup, Kirk Chains. After I lost Jordan Love in week 1, and my bench quarterback, Garbo time on live stream, Kirk Chains.
That cost me my fucking bet. I was so mad because I had Philly. I had Philly minus 5.5. I had the under in the game, and I had Saquon over 2.5 catches. $10 was winning me 80. And boop.
Yours is
Fuck
DK
you, Kirk Cobain.
minus Kirko. I feel like that those are very fair MVPs. Those are very fair MVPs. DK definitely, especially if like after that
long touchdown, because he had a couple of bonuses if you're in like 40 part.
Kelsey doesn't
40 yard
ball anymore. I'm convinced he just wants rings. I'm dead. Leaves Kamara definitely an MVP. MHJ definitely. We are going to talk a little bit more about that. Down 6, 130 left. Bro was feeling his inner Brady. I'm saying.
And they say Cousins can't play on prime time. Prime time Cousins was a thing.
Primetime Cousins was a thing. Following discussing our MVPs, let's settle down. What player after 2 weeks do you feel the most confident in dropping off of fantasy football rosters?
Keon Coleman.
Oh, damn. Okay. That's fair.
If I got to make a move, I got to make a move. And usually you're not spending the most ridiculous draft capital. You didn't spend the most ridiculous draft capital in a draft to usually get Keon Coleman. But it's looking like a Shakir running kind of year over there. And like if Shaheed from New Orleans is there and I got Coleman, I ain't gonna be stupid. I'm gonna fucking take Shaheed. Like, yeah. I'm not gonna even QJ. QJ showing more volume and targets than what I'm seeing here with Coleman, who we're projecting now. He is someone that if I don't have to cut, there's probably guys that I would cut before him, but we're talking about, viable guys that if I have to cut, I would cut. And that's a guy.
No, I agree.
In
Keon
12
Coleman,
team leagues, though. 12 team.
Keon Coleman, I'm definitely ready to let it go. Let it go. I do agree with that. And it hurts because it hurts in a way, but at the same time, why I say let it go is because it's like I'm not gonna let the fact that this is a social media darling sway me into keeping him on my roster. Like I let Xavier Legette go with no problems, and I was higher on Legette, just because of his size and his stature. But Carolina can't get that together, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. For me, it's Dalton Schultz at a position that is so fragile and so much more of a make or break. I am ready to get out of the Dalton Schultz experiment. There's just too many mouths to feed, and it's clearly all receivers that CJ Stroud is going to feed. Do I feel like Schultz is going to have weeks? Sure. But I probably would rather go with one of the other tight ends that we talked about off the waiver wire, whether that be a Gesicki at 12% rostered, a Jonnu at 8%, a Colby Parkinson at 58%, a Hunter Henry at 24%. I'm okay with making those moves. Just because, yeah. Those are guys. Wait, we're talking about who we need to drop. Yeah.
I mean, again, that Houston is a situation that's very messy, and Nico's looking like he's pulling out full alpha, like and everybody else is just falling in line.
So I'm dropping Schultz. You're dropping
Keon Coleman. If pressed, again, you probably have other guys you could drop before him, but I like to make it spicy.
What player on your fantasy football roster do you currently feel you have to have the most patience with right now? So you're not dropping. They haven't done what you're wanting, but you know that they are going to.
I feel like Bucky
Irving.
From Tampa, because you kind of thought he was going to do more last week. But I mean, White is starting to show signs of some minor groin injuries. I don't trust White to, one, be an efficient runner throughout the season because he hasn't shown it in his career. He's a great pass catcher, made his money, quote unquote, in fantasy.
Lee said he's going to drop Dell. Lee said he's going to, or DJ fucking Moore. DJ Moore, yeah, but I feel like be patient with DJ Moore.
I'm not going to lie, though. From the beginning, I think we were saying it's just like that situation is so sticky that it's hard for his ADP to justify itself. So you kind of stuck there. Like you drafted him freaking high. So those are the kind of guys you gotta hold on and have patience with. So definitely a DJ Moore have patience with.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of a real guy that I need to have Oh, Dalton Kincaid, same offense. He is at least getting more targets, but I was one of those people who I was thinking that he would be a top 5 tight end. I was thinking he would be used like a wide receiver in this offense that was depleted of weapons. And so far, we really haven't seen it. But what we have seen is he has gotten some catches. We have seen in some of those end game snares, he is getting the ball. We are seeing that he does have some rapport. So is this offense going to sustain multiple pass catching weapons? Doesn't look like it. Does it look like that it's probably going to be Shakir as the wide receiver? Yeah. He looks like he's probably going to be the go-to receiver for him. And then who does it look like is going to be the next weapon? I mean, from target share and from feel, it looks like it's going to be Kincaid. And that's why I'm definitely not like it's gonna suck. I mean, you're probably going to get some offers for him, and you're going to, if you're a smart GM, I think in this point, you have to say that what Buffalo's done so far is an anomaly. They had a completely horrible first half of the first game. And then the second game here, with everything that was going on, it was kind of like huge plays from James Cook. Some Tua nonsense and everything in between, kind of not giving that offense a shot to shine. They'll be in some shootouts. Things will get better, especially for the playmakers and the pass catchers. So I think got to be calm with Kincaid. Coleman, I think, because of the Shakir emergence, you can kind of put him a little bit on the back burner.
What I will say is, for me, I agree. I agree with the Kincaid take, and then I also agree with you. Dropping Coleman, kind of keeping it within that same offense. For me, I say be patient with Terry McLaurin. All right. While I feel like you can trade him, I would wait for the big play game where you can trade him. You have a weird conundrum happening right now in Washington. That chemistry isn't fully developed. Don't worry, it's going to develop. We are only in September football. All right. And this is one of those players that, while they are on your roster and while you're going to bench them heading into week 3, you're reminding yourself that we're still in September football. Rumtober is when it really matters. And that's when you're really going to be making a lot of your trades more so anyways. Jaden Daniels has more rushing yards than Derrick Henry, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall, Travis Etienne. I don't think that is going to stay that way very, very, very long, okay? Because he also simultaneously has a higher passer rating than Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, and Lamar Jackson. All right. Now that's only through 2 games played. But clearly this offense wants to initiate the passing scheme a lot more and get him more adapted to that. Okay. And I do think that is eventually going to happen, especially in an offense where the wide receiver 2 hasn't fully established itself and probably isn't going to establish itself until middle of the season. If there's any player that you need to have patience with, it is Terry McLaurin. It's going to happen. It's going to get there. Don't worry. All right. I would not worry. He's going to be a fine flex play. Just give it time. Week 3, don't play him. I think that he's a great bench stash, though. If I'm able to have Terry McLaurin on my bench right now in 2024, I'm feeling fucking confident. Other than that, he is definitely a trade piece. I would just wait until that value builds up. Okay. Biggest overreaction from week 2 and bold take for week 3.
Overreaction from week 2.
I got mine.
Go ahead, go.
If you're thinking that Achane is going to maintain what the fuck he just did, they're saying they're going to give him more touches. He has to stay healthy. That is something that worries me. That is something that worries me a whole hell of a lot. While, let's see here, the Dolphins have to face... The Dolphins have to face Seattle. That is a very tough defense. Over-under's at 41.5. Achane will probably, get his. It's going to be tough, though. It's going to be tough. You're still playing him. Don't expect another 30-burger. Don't. He barely got the 30-burger that he had this past week. We got to see what that offense is going to look like under new Tyler Huntley. So my biggest overreaction and my bold take in the same breath is Achane doesn't do the same things. He's still going to ball out. Do I think that that's going to be your home run hit that absolutely wins you your fucking week? I don't know. I see this as maybe being a 20-point fantasy game for a champ, which is still damn good. I'm not expecting a 30 though. Maybe even a 19, 18-point game, and that sucks because he's my keeper in the league. So.
I just had it. Oh, that's exactly my overreaction right there, because I was touting this guy very much, and I was expecting that hyper targeting from Aaron Rodgers to take effect early and often. But we're going to stay the course. He's an elite talent. Game script and all these rust factors are still in play. So hoping to see him rip roaring soon. At least he's not completely unusable, but I definitely thought that Garrett Wilson would be more peak top 5 wide receiver than like maybe he's a wide receiver too this week. You know what I mean? So he needs to definitely pick it up before I start really going nuts. And then I guess for the bold take, I know exactly where I'm going there. Carolina's offense is going to have a revival from fantasy like fantasy perspective. Like Deontay Johnson, I think might actually now become someone you could actually play again. Yeah, like he's not maybe going to score touchdowns, but he'll get at least 6-7 catches for like 70 yards and be usable. Like all these kind of little things that Young can't do, that Dalton at least can do.
I mean, let's talk about that real quick. I mean, Carolina, they have to face the Raiders, so the Raiders kind of get a little bit of a layup. But I mean, the Raiders have to prepare for Andy Dalton, which Carolina's advantage in this is the element of surprise that they haven't. No one's game planning for fucking Andy Dalton. So if you're the Raiders, you're kind of not knowing what you're getting yourself into. I mean, he's a pocket passer, but Carolina, I don't think that's the way that you want to be developing a first-round draft pick. You want to be developing a quarterback. Darnold left that situation, became better. Baker left that situation, became better. I'm thinking that it's more of the team and less of like a Bryce Young issue. Adam Thielen even said that it was not a Bryce Young issue. I think that it's a play calling issue. I think that it's a team issue. It's an organizational issue. Your owner treats the citizens of the city like shit. There's issues with this from the top down. I feel like the players are the last ones to blame. Like Matt Rule went to fucking Nebraska in college, and he's building the next Mahomes clone in Dylan Raiola. Like, so it's just I'm not okay with the benching of Bryce. Like, I'm okay with the benching of Bryce Young, but I'm also not okay because it's like, you tied yourself to that. You need to develop that. Shawar asks, should I trade Rachaad White and Diggs for Chase? I feel like yes. I know in terms of value, of course, Chase is definitely the option, but is it panic mode for him? Will he eventually turn it up week to week? He's playing Washington this week. If there's any chance for this team to get it together, especially with T. Higgins possibly coming back, it's this.
I'll say this also with Chase. He was not practicing like on the field, actually running routes, doing things for most of this preseason. When I was talking it before, like the impact of them not playing the preseason games the way they used to is starting to be seen, and you can see it in some of the touchdown numbers. Normally in this point in the season, you have like 100 touchdowns thrown or something like that. I think there's only 66 this year. We're seeing significant declines in scoring across the board. Defensive play is up, and I think that's partly because the chemistry between these offenses have not been developed because they've only been going against practice squad and their own defenses and simulations, not an actual other defense that's hungry out there ready to take their fucking lunch in a way that your own team is not going to be taking that out on you. And I think that once these offenses get a couple of games in and now they get used to it and start rolling, We're going to see some of the scoring to go back up. We're going to see some of these players start putting up their numbers. And I think for Jamar Chase, he's one of those perfect guys that you would target as, yep, you figure right now is the buy low on him. And
you're not going to get Jamar Chase any lower than what you can right now.
Like, he's going to get helped with Higgins. Like, make no mistake about it. It's going to open it up for both of them. They help each other by being on that field. And Joe Burrow looks like he's starting to find it the way he was playing in that last game. There was a couple of plays where he was in the pocket and Kansas City was getting in there, and Joe Burrow's just moving within the pocket, manipulating his zone in order to get out there and make a throw. And once you start seeing that from Joe Burrow and him being accurate on those executions of those throws, it makes you sit back and say, okay, this is going to start cooking. And Jamar Chase was starting to tee off. So I'm figuring he wants to also get going. Like, let's make no mistake about it. He is a dog and he wants to put up numbers. His breakout is coming. Like he said, get him now before it's too late.
Really quick, shout out to New England Patriots. They are 2-0 and they take on the Jets on Thursday Night Football. Make sure you tune in. We will be reacting to that live. And then the Saints take on the Eagles. I'm excited for that game. So yeah, shout out to those teams doing their damn thing. Taco, anything else you want to close out with? Let's wrap up.
No, man. I think that lately the under in these games, like these big games, have been hitting for me. So as we look at this Jets game, I think they set the line as pretty much as low as you can get, 38. I think that's something to look at as we get into Thursday. Little interesting bet under, just straight under.
I'll be dropping over on the Rumboyz Fantasy Network channel. I'll be dropping a best bets video for everybody. Shout out to everyone that tuned into the Big Guy Fantasy Sports Network over on YouTube. Thank you guys. We do cross stream this one particular show here and there. And then we also do Rumboyz and NFL AM here and there as well. So you guys get, double the content, 2 different channels, same show. So be sure to check that out. Shout Shop GLD, get like me. Link is in the description. Or I don't think the link is in on this video. I'll drop it for you though. I'll drop it for you guys in the description. Be on the lookout for more shorts. We're gonna be dropping some YouTube shorts. Other than that, cheers to me. Cheers to you. All the wrong boys and girls, what it do. Dilly dilly. We love and appreciate all of you. Like, comment, subscribe. You already know the vibe.
Preaching on the